Are your people working hard but not reaching their full potential? The problem is not effort, it is development. At the Modern Observer Group, we transform workforce development into real performance. Our human-centered achievement programs help your team think better, communicate stronger, and execute at a higher level. That means higher employee engagement, stronger leadership, and measurable results across your organization. If you want a workforce that performs, leads, and delivers, it is time to invest in your people. Visit modernobserver.com and discover how the Modern Observer Group helps you build a workforce that wins.
Hello, and welcome to the Success Showcase, the podcast that helps you succeed in your business life and career. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin from the Modern Observer Group, and with me as always is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. Chip, how's it going this week?
I'm doing great. How are you, Eric?
Doing fantastic. You know, we have just passed May Day, and I can't believe the year is going by so fast. We're in May already.
Yep. No, I mean, it's going by very, very fast. It's special for me because coming up this Thursday, May 7th, was the day 44 years ago that I became a dad for the first time, which was pretty
Nice.
cool. So obviously it's a special time of the year for me too. So Mother's Day coming up after that, just a great month.
Yeah, we've got a lot of stuff coming up. There's a lot of reason to celebrate family. You know, we've got Mother's Day this month, Father's Day the following month, starting to get to the summer where you're planning family vacations. So there's a lot going on right in this time of year about family.
Yeah, absolutely. And every year I make sure that by the end of April, I have not procrastinated in getting out my Mother's Day cards, not only to my wife, but to my daughter-in-law and to my her in-laws down in Texas. Basically, I send out 4 different Mother's Day cards or 3 different Mother's Day cards every single year, and my son's birthday card. And they were all done by the end of last week. So
Nice. All right.
which is a good lead into our subject for today, because sometimes, a lot of times, I tend to do the P word.
Yes. So yeah, we're gonna do a topic here that should have done a while ago. And we've touched on it in the past, but we're going to talk about procrastination. And let's face it, this is something we all do from time to time. And it's never productive. So we decided we're going to take a little bit of a deep dive and figure out why we procrastinate and share some ways that you can get past it. And the first big myth about procrastination is that it's about time management. It's not. Procrastination has nothing to do with time management. Procrastination is actually an emotional, a cognitive, and behavioral issue. And what it really comes down to is trying to avoid something that you're anticipating to be discomfort. We talk a lot about having to get out of your comfort zone to get things done that way. But at its core, procrastination is really about staying in your comfort zone and avoiding discomfort. So tasks that trigger feelings like anxiety, self-doubt, boredom, even they can make you feel overwhelmed. Your brain chooses to have short-term relief rather than the long-term gain. And this is actually a concept that I actually just learned about this recently, called temporal discounting. And what that is it's when you prioritize immediate comfort over future rewards. So that's one of the first things that you really have to realize about procrastination, is that what you're really procrastinating on, what you're putting off, is getting rewarded. But because getting to that point can be uncomfortable. You're staying in your comfort zone longer than you should rather than facing the discomfort and getting the reward faster.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the quote that I saw today when I looked up about preparing for this, and I'm going to be talking about my favorite book about this subject, which is The 5 Second Rule by Mel Robbins.
Yep.
But it starts with taking action. Pushing yourself to take simple actions creates a chain reaction in your confidence and productivity. But the bottom line is motivation is a myth. Motivation, you're never going to be motivated to do that. It says there's a common assumption that in order to take action, you need to feel motivated to do so. Reality is that you are not likely to feel the momentum, the motivation to do things that really need doing. The only way to make progress or dramatically improve your life is to take action regardless of having the sense of motivation or not. And one book that I read a long time ago, I think it came out around 2008 or something like that, or not, like 2015, is a book by Mel Robbins called The 5 Second Rule. And basically, she lacked motivation and being able to do things, and she discovered this rule, basically sitting in bed, and instead of hitting the snooze button, one day she just decided to say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, counting down and jumping out of bed. Basically, that's what it's all about. It introduces a self-help rule. It's a countdown technique, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then do it. And basically, what's happening is by counting backwards, you stop focusing on the fears and so on and so forth. It's like a rocket ship taking off and getting excited. And the second is, you need to take action to get you started. And this rule can be used anytime that you're facing whatever you're looking to do. And if you just all of a sudden go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and get into it, it's a great little trick to help you get going. But there's the whole book talks about a whole lot of different ways to get into it and so on and so forth. But I highly recommend if you just go online and Google the 5 Second Rule by Mel Robbins, you can get all the tips right out of that. But I highly recommend getting the book, or even better, listening to her on Audible, because she is a terrific motivational speaker, and the different things that she did use this rule for is amazing. But the bottom line is, it's not just automatic where you can snap your fingers and do it unless you have a little trick like this. At least that's what I found.
Yeah, that's a great point. You do need to just sort of jump in and start doing it. And that's actually very key, because again, one of the other things that focuses in to get you past these things is having clarity. But there's so many things we don't have clarity about, so we put them off. I mean, when was the last time that you really looked forward to doing your taxes? Or, quite frankly, most financial planning. It's one of the most common items that people put off. Why? Because they don't have a clarity about it. Because they're afraid of what they might find out, how much they're going to owe in taxes, how far behind they are on retirement planning. And because you don't know it, you assume the worst. So that lack of clarity really keeps you from moving forward. By jumping forward and at least doing something in it, you start to get that clarity. It's very common for somebody to put a task off for quite a while, and then when they finally get it done, it's much easier than they expected, and you say to yourself, "Well, why was I putting that off? I could have gotten this done years ago." But we don't, because you fear the unknown. And that's something that it's never going to go away. It's ingrained in human beings. And it's, quite frankly, it's ingrained there for a reason. Because once upon a time, the unknown could kill you at a moment's notice. Now, the unknown is rarely that dangerous. I mean, yes, if you're going into an unknown neighborhood in a big city, maybe you want to be a little careful. But for the most part, the things we're procrastinating on because they're unknown aren't going to kill us. they might not make us happy. They might not be comfortable, but the odds of us dying because of jumping in is pretty slim. So when
Yeah.
when you're dealing with that nebulousness, the vagueness that you don't know what is involved in the task, your brain considers it a threat. So, and this is something we've talked about over and over again. Break it down to give yourself clarity. Telling yourself you're going to work on a business plan is a lot more daunting than write the first 3 bullet points of the executive summary. Most of us can go, oh, 3 bullet points. I can come up with that. The whole plan is daunting. So, yeah, use something like the 5-second rule, jump in and do something. Calvin Coolidge once said, we can't do everything at once, but we can do something at once.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked a lot about as far as organizing the things that you have to do for your business or for your life and writing down what the end goal is and then breaking it down to tasks, organizing them and just getting them done one by one. So, I mean, as you said, breaking down the tasks is so important. We've also talked about time management. So if you take, as we talked about before, 5-minute blocks of however many tasks that you have in there, just tick them off one at a time. Obviously, getting started is the hardest thing to do. So if you have the tasks listed down and you're going to say, okay, I'm going to do this for 5 minutes and so on and so forth, it's so important to do. I think it was Brian Tracy that wrote the book, Eat That Frog.
Yes.
And what Eat That Frog is basically just getting up. Your frog is the biggest, most ugliest task on your to-do list. And if you eat that frog first thing in the morning, you won't experience anything more difficult than that the rest of the day. So if you get that most difficult task done first thing in the morning, obviously that's out of the way, and the momentum that you've already built for the rest of the day is so important. And that's a great book to read too, Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy. Another thing also is managing your emotions. We all are human and we all go through this, and you got to realize that this is not just my problem as far as procrastination goes. We all do that. So accept that, be compassionate with yourself, look in the mirror saying it's okay, and then go out and eat that frog. Just get going. So
Yeah, Eat That Frog is a great book. I'm not a big fan of the analogy because I actually enjoy frog's legs. Yeah, and eating frog is actually delicious, but
point, counterpoint. Here we go.
right. But what you said about being human is so important because that's another reason that so many of us procrastinate on items. It's because we fear judgment. We want it to be perfect, but we don't think we can do it. So in our heads, we tie the outcome to who we are, our self-worth, and that causes the hesitation to increase. When you connect it to, there's a concept called self-handicapping. And this is when you put something off because it becomes a protective excuse against potential failure. Well, Wayne Gretzky once said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So if you're self-handicapping yourself and not taking the shot because you're afraid you're going to miss, what you've actually done is cause yourself to miss. So you have to understand that it's not always about you. What you do is not necessarily who you are. It's a task that you're doing. So you have to be able to say, you know what? If I don't do it well, I'll do my best. I can fix it after. It's not going to be the end of the world. And it's all about self-perception. And I'm going to toss this back to you because this feeds right into your famous courtroom analogy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have inferiority complexes and comparisons and so on and so forth. I talked about appreciating yourself and getting up every single morning and looking in the mirror and giving yourself a high five and say, today, wherever I go, whatever I'm doing, I will be positive. And the fact that we were all created, again, we talked about managing the emotions. We were all created from unconditional love, and it's there. And whatever bad things we have going about ourselves, we've created in our own heads. And so as we're growing up, again, a lot of you are parents out there and you have children or whatever, and basically all children, they're helpless as babies and you're just looking at them, just God's wonderful creation. And as they grow up, they're just relying. But then obviously the world happens to them and they go to school and all of a sudden they're comparing themselves with other people. And it's just human nature to do all this kind of stuff. But the bottom line is that whether you're the most popular kid or perceived popular kid in the class or at work and so on and so forth, everybody has got the same thing going on in their own heads, and that is their own inferiority complex, which we created as mankind because God gave us a brain for us to analyze and compare and so on and so forth. And once we realize that everybody's going through this, that's the key. So after I build people into a frenzy in my talks, getting them into the stage of paranoia where everything's against them and so on and so forth, I all of a sudden show a slide of an empty courtroom with an empty jury box. And I call this the empty courtroom example. And in the empty courtroom, you are the judge and you are the accused, but the jury box is empty. And then I ask everybody, okay, where is the jury? This is the question. And most of the time, unless they've seen me talk before, they can't get the answer right. And I just say they're all in their own courtrooms. And then I put a little saying at the bottom of that, don't take yourself so seriously. Nobody else does. And that's reality. And if you look at that and get up every single morning and go to that mirror, and this is another book that Mel Robbins wrote, The High Five Habit. Every morning, this book came because one morning she looked at a 50-year-old woman herself in the mirror and said, yuck. And all of a sudden she decided out of the blue just to give herself a high five to celebrate herself. Because when you do that, whether it's in sports or anything else, if you're giving somebody a high five, whatever's going on in your life is gone. All you're doing is celebrating the present moment. And that's what that's all about also. So there again, there's techniques of doing this, and her two there, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and getting up in the morning and giving yourself a high five are two of the best things you can do. But realize that again, whatever we got going on in our minds is going on in our own empty courtroom because other people are there too in their own.
Absolutely. For a lot of us, it becomes difficult to motivate ourselves to get these things done. I always recommend, if you're having trouble with motivation, the Robbins trio. And that's Mel Robbins, Tony Robbins, and Baskin Robbins. And for those of you in other parts of the country that don't know Baskin Robbins, it's an ice cream parlor. So, there's always ways for you to get motivated. Mel Robbins and Tony Robbins are fantastic to listen to. When you get your task done, reward yourself with some ice cream. It's a great way to just say, hey, I got it done. So another reason that many people procrastinate is that they don't see the value in the task. If there's not a clear outcome or purpose, then it's very hard to get motivated because you look at a task and your brain doesn't allocate the energy to it because you think it's irrelevant. Well, that's a big problem. So when you're looking at a task, you actually have to figure out, all right, what am I getting out of this? Why is this important for me to do? And, when we've talked about time management, we've talked about the Eisenhower matrix. Is this urgent? Is this important? Quite frankly, if it's not urgent or important, maybe you shouldn't be doing it. But you can't make that judgment until you take a good look at the task and say, okay, what is going the outcome? What are the consequences if I don't get this done? And what are the benefits if I do? Generally, the benefits of getting it done far outweigh the consequences. So focus on what you're getting out of it. And sometimes it's as simple as this task, getting this task done, is going to allow you to complete another task that's actually important. So while the one task might be minor or seem irrelevant, it could be a part of a much bigger platform that you have to, complete in order to get where you want to go. So don't just discount something like, oh, that's just irrelevant. It's look at why you're doing it and start with that why. Why is this important? Why does this need to be done? When you understand the why, it's a lot easier to be motivated to get it done.
Yeah, absolutely. And then another thing that you can do, which we've talked about before, especially when it comes to work and things like that, and different things that you're trying to accomplish in your life, is don't keep it to yourself. Talk to some other people about that, and perhaps even get an accountability partner where you can get together from time to time and check in on each other from a positive standpoint to really keep each other motivated. But the bottom line is we weren't meant to be by ourselves. We were meant to be social people. And the more we can enjoy people as social people rather than going back to the sizing in the courtroom and all that kind of stuff, the better off we're going to be. But having an accountability partner that you can share your goals with, and most importantly, with, I love that Baskin Robbins thing. I want to go out for ice cream right now, but celebrate with them once you've achieved that. It's so important to do that. The bottom line, your joy is my joy. And that is true. That's a really true saying. So share it with somebody else and just go out and get it done and celebrate when you do.
Absolutely. Now, there are other reasons that people procrastinate, and one of them is actually fairly serious, and most people don't see it coming. And it's cognitive overload and decision fatigue. We've talked about this peripherally when we talk about the importance of to-do lists and writing things down, because your brain trying to keep everything in there, it's not meant for that. So it's all of these open loops, things that have to be done that your brain thinks you should be doing right now. Well, too many open loops actually creates paralysis. And decision fatigue is one of those things that it's when you require more decisions, the more likely you are to avoid starting. So we talk a lot about avoiding these problems when we talk about to-do lists. When you're putting those lists together, the list should be the absolute next step. You should not have to think about what it is when you see it on the to-do list. Putting mom on a to-do list is not a good thing. Putting buy mom a birthday gift is, because that's specific enough. Even better would be decide what to buy mom for her birthday. And then as a separate item, buy the item. But you need to close the loops. When we're trying to do too much at once, when we're trying to multitask, when we're trying to keep everything in our head and keep all the balls in the air, that causes cognitive overload. And quite frankly, at that point, you freeze. You stop. Your brain cannot go forward until you close some of those open loops and then, quite frankly, recover. So you it's better not to get into the position where you have that many open loops. You need to be able to say no to things when you're overwhelmed. You need to be able to write things down and not keep everything in your head. And again, break things down so it's simple, so you're not trying to make decision after decision after decision.
Yeah, whether it's in an organizer that you're using on your phone or your computer, whatever, or in my case, on a spreadsheet, if you have everything written down in front of you so that you can look at that instead of just trying to figure things out, because having everything floating around in your brain, it's a surefire way to insanity, just like you're talking about as far as overloading your brain with things. So, I mean, the first step is just to write the things down, prioritize them, obviously, and then block things out and just start doing them one at a time. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boom.
Yeah. And there's one final major reason that people procrastinate. And this is called identity mismatch. And personally, I see this most often with business owners who put off selling because they've created an identity that they've told themselves, well, I'm not a salesperson. I'm not good at that. Well, as a business owner, you don't have an option. You have to be selling. When you tell yourself it's something you're not good at, it becomes that much harder for you to actually get it done. And we see it all the time with kids. They'll tell themselves, oh, I'm not good at math. I'm not good at language. I'm not good at science, whatever the subject is. And then not doing well in that class becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So they've told themselves they're not good at it. Their grades reflect that they're not good at it, which cements that identity for them, and they never get past that. The fact of the matter is, you are who you say you are. You're not good at sales? Read up on sales, learn more about it. You're not good at computers. I actually had somebody tell me the other day, I'm not intelligent enough to use artificial intelligence. It's like, well, you know what? When you learn, you take it, jump in and just do a little bit. The more you learn, the better you'll get at it. So don't tell yourself, oh, I'm not good at that. You can tell yourself, I'm not good at that yet, and start working on it. You can tell yourself, that's not one of my strengths and I need to get better at it. But never tell yourself, I'm not good at it. That's not who I am. I'm not wired that way. You can rewire yourself anytime you want. And there's an entire area of neuroscience called neuroplasticity that proves this. So never say, that's not who I am. If it's something you need to get done, make it who you are. All right, we are coming up on the end of our time. So, Chip, what do you think is the big takeaway for today?
In the words of Monty Python, always look on the bright side of life. Starting in the mirror with yourself. I mentioned before, but it's so important to be compassionate with yourself rather than feeling guilty. I mean, there's two sides to everything, and obviously, I call myself the happiness and success GPS. And if you could tilt yourself to 51% positive, it would be life changing for yourself. But if you can get up every day, go to that mirror, give yourself a high five, and say, no matter what I'm doing, no matter what happens today, I'm going to be positive, and celebrate yourself. And then just take that through as far as taking a look at your to-do list and chunking things down into tasks and knocking them off one by one and celebrating when you're doing it. You got to get yourself into the mindset. It all begins with mindset. Mindset is everything. And we were meant to be positive. We make ourselves negatives by doing too much stuff with our own heads. So turn that around in your head, and you're going to start turning things around in your life, including overcoming procrastination.
Yeah, at its heart, procrastination is about, it's something that either A, you're uncomfortable doing, B, you're comfortable with it, but you don't see the value in it, or C, you don't know how to do it. That's what all of this boils down to, is when you're procrastinating on something, it generally falls into one of those three categories. Well, guess what? If something has to get done, jump in, get it done. If it's something you don't understand, learn about it first. Take a small step. If it's something that you don't feel is important, find the value in it. See what that's going to lead to. And if it's something you're uncomfortable with, that's not a reason to put it off. That's a reason to do it faster. because this way, either A, you're going to become comfortable with it, or B, you're going to minimize the time you're uncomfortable. When you keep putting it off, all you're doing is extending the time that you're uncomfortable. And this is the buffalo example. On the plains, there's one major difference between cows and buffaloes. When a storm comes, cows will flee the storm. They'll run away. And of course, because cows cannot run as fast as the storm, they actually prolong the time they're in the wind and rain because they're running in the same direction as the storm. Buffalo, on the other hand, run towards the storm, and they run through it so that the time they're uncomfortable in the storm is minimized. So I think that's the best reason not to procrastinate, is because this way you'll minimize how long you're uncomfortable. And either A, you'll get back to your comfort zone when it's all done, or B, you won't be uncomfortable doing it anymore. Either way, you win. So don't procrastinate, don't put things off, get more done, and get more comfortable. You've been listening to The Success Showcase. You can catch every episode of The Success Showcase at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcast app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.